So please welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. My first question has to be, how did you get inspired to paint this amazing painting? What a meaningful painting. I observe it and I see the children, the unification between all the different kids. How did the inspiration came about that you have the image of the cross there and the painting in such a subtle way? I would like for you to tell us, how did you get inspired with this painting?
Well, most of the paintings that I do are sometimes thrown at me with my back against a wall. Painting children, I didn't want to paint children. I was handed a contract and told it was too good to not paint children for. So I really didn't see that coming. But by the time 9/11 happened, I was very well known for my paintings of children. I had often been called the feminine Rockwell. So and he actually, when I laid out on the table who I wanted to be as an artist, that was the first thing that came to mind. I wanted to share images of children as if Norman Rockwell would, where you would see the children and you would wonder, are they going to share that bunny with me? Or are they going to grab that fish? I like to paint things so the viewer can decide what they think. So I always leave on the edge of discovery. So here I had this, I was represented by major companies in the United States. And I was actually fearful every time I did a painting because they would want one better and bigger than the one before. So I was with a renowned publisher at the time. And when 9/11 happened, I know every one of your viewers, especially your American viewers, they know exactly where they were and what they were doing in that moment. It was that profound.
Yes.
And when it happened, it ripped my heart out. I was seized by a fear I had not felt before.
Yes.
And I certainly didn't have any desire to paint.
Mm-hmm.
But as the days went on, I realized, what would Norman Rockwell do? When we were seized by war, he created these amazing 4 paintings called the 4 Freedoms, and he raised money for war bonds from those 4 images. And I thought, well, if I am going to be called the feminine Rockwell, then I need to paint a message of hope to families. And I sat in my studio, and I'm going to let your viewers kind of go through this with me a little bit and pretend there's this huge white canvas. And I stared for 3 days because, like other people, I didn't know why did they come and attack us? What do they hate about us? What is it about America that makes us so threatening? But what is it about America that makes us who we are? And what makes us so special? Yes. And finally, I came up with 2 things. And I drew on the big paper a rectangle. Pretend I'm drawing a rectangle and a cross. And I came to the conclusion that the 2 things that set us apart and the 2 pillars that hold up our Constitution, our history, is a pillar of freedom and a pillar of faith. Yes. And everything falls within those 2 things. Now, mind you, this is before Faith and Freedom Works and all these organizations evolved. This was just a lonely artist in a studio researching my own faith and my own love for our country. So here I drew a rectangle and a cross, and I thought, now how can I make this art? Yeah. How can I get these 2 things into a painting with children? So can you see the painting is behind me?
Yes, certainly.
This is the actual size of the original painting, and we will have it up for your viewers can see it. But the rectangle would represent the flag, which is our freedom. Yes. But I couldn't imagine a flag just stiff and suspended. And other artists were painting children waving flags. And I came up with the idea of what if they're painting on a school wall? Because in our church, I had organized for the children to dip their hands in paint and make a rainbow with their handprints. And I thought, what if the children are dipping their hands in paint and putting the American flag back together.
How brilliant.
But what
I
if
find it
that is-
brilliant.
well, what if that's symbolic of them dipping their hands in paint and putting our American dream back together again?
Oh.
And so as I started painting children, I didn't want a straight line of them. So I would say artistically, the best idea that I had was to do this step ladder, because that became a great way for the children to come around.
Yeah.
And as I started adding children, my husband said, you know, if you add one more, you'll have 7. And that would represent the 7 continents.
Yes. Oh,
And also the number 7 is the perfect number. Have you thought
it is
about
the perfect number.
it?
Yes.
The perfect number is the same number as the continents.
Yeah.
So I added a 7th child, but I did not know how to get the cross in it. So I just started laying it out and started painting, and still there was just that big line with the cross. And then in the middle of the night, it hit me. Kathy, artists tell you that you are known for your light. What if the cross is created from light? What if it's light
How brilliant.
side window?
How
So I don't know if you
inspirational.
can see part of it here. I'll tip
Yes.
this a little
Yes.
so you can see the cross.
Yes, I can see
I
it.
created this design and I used light. I started painting the 7 children, all diverse, all different. And I finished the painting, and it took me 6 weeks of painting to do it. I did it in layers, watercolor, and then the pastel on top. I took it to our downtown in Duluth, Georgia, to show my mother and aunt. They happened to be there on the town green, both artists, for their approval. Now, artists out there, you may know this, but it takes 2 to paint, 1 to paint, and 1 to hit them over the head when it's done. And so my mother and my aunt were known for hitting me over the head.
Oh,
So
Lord.
I said, is it done? Is it done? They went, don't touch it, it's done. And it was in the back of my car, and I was in a public area, and this man standing there said, ma'am, that blood-stained handprint is powerful. And the 3 of us looked at him, and I went, like this handprint right here, these are all tiny handprints. And he said, no, the one at the foot of the cross. None of us saw it, but I want you to look at this and see if you can see it. Here's the cross. You go to the floor, and right here is the perfect handprint.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to get a handprint measured perfectly?
Oh,
And I had no idea it was this. No
I
idea.
can see. We can see. Yes. Oh my
Oh, you'll
gosh.
And so I woke up in the middle of the night, a couple of nights later, and I said, Jeff, we're not meant to keep this, sell this. This is meant to go to the White House. And so
That's
you can
wonderful.
imagine. So believe it or not, President Bush did not accept gifts. He was very careful about that. And so my U.S. congressman contacted me, and he said, could I hang the dream keepers in Washington, D.C.? And I believe that that will give it steam, because it's very difficult to get it into the White House because the Bushes don't accept gifts. And so that's what we did. When the painting was in, this would be John Linder's office at the time, people started coming in to see this painting and to see this magical blood-stained handprint and to see this woman who I discovered later who was praying with a shawl and holding a cross.
Oh my
You can
God.
see there's the perfect image of a woman praying.
Yes.
And so all of these things, I don't know if your viewers can see it or not, but all
Yes.
of these things gave this painting legs. And so in the last year of President Bush's term, I received a call. He said, do you want your painting to be part of the White House collection? Solange, that there's a lot of, as an artist, you would want your painting to be
Of course.
House collection. But I thought, you know what? Because this happened during President Bush's term, And because of Laura Bush's being a teacher and her love for children,
Yes.
I believe that this painting would be seen more and have more of an active life if I give it personally to them. And they said, well, then can you come here Friday morning to the Oval Office? The president called. Would it be possible to come to the Oval Office on Friday morning? And can I accept it on behalf of Laura and I in the Oval Office? And I went, I think I can arrange my schedule to be there Friday morning.
I can imagine.
So I went to the Oval Office, but my first phone call, people laugh and they go, was your first phone call to your husband? And I said, no, my first phone call was to my tennis team. And I went, girls, we're going shooting. That was my first phone call.
Oh my gosh, what a story. And I have to tell you, I've seen the picture with you are presenting the painting to President Bush and your husband and your two daughters, I believe. That's that they
right.
got the painting. And I mean, the photo. And I have to tell you, what a meaningful moment in your life, you know, because not only obviously because he's the president of the United States, but also the fact that, you know, one of the presidents of the United States have taken your art in the White House, considering that they would never take gifts. So it must have been so special, and it probably got to their heart. And knowing later that President Bush likes art himself.
I know, and well, at the time I asked him, but I said, first I went in there with this, I've got to tell him about the painting. I have to make sure he knows every detail about it. And so I just went in there with this targeted vision of, I'm going to tell him about it. By golly, he's going to know everything about it. If he's going to own it, he's going to hear it from me. And so he was chatting with my husband and my daughters. And I was just like, he's got to know all this. He's got to know like this. And so I said, well, President Bush, can I show you something? And he's like, oh, yes. Now, mind you, John Linder said he was the most prepared president for an interview. So I said, do you see the cross? And he got closer to me and I went, do you see the bloodstained handprint? And he got closer to me and I said, do you see? And then he turned and he looked at me and he said, you must think I'm stupid.
Oh, no.
And it was so funny because the news had come out that day that he had this low IQ or something. He was stupid. We laughed. And then he said, Kathy, he says, can I tell you what this painting does to me? I said, yeah. And he said, first of all, do you see the rug in the Oval Office? He said, Laura and I designed it. And our design, and you'll see this in the photograph, our design is of the presidential seal with rays of light going out in all directions. Yeah. And he said, do you see how this painting looks like it's an extension of this rug? The colors. And he said, the way that you handled the light on the cross is what touched me. And he said, and I'll tell you why. He said, that's what 9/11 was all about. He said, that shadow in the cross is created from light and darkness. That's what 9/11 was about. It was about light and darkness coming together. Wow. And he said, and that is what made such a powerful impact on me, was your handling of the light in that cross. And then he went on to share some personal things that nobody had ever heard about of his faith. So it was a meaningful event with him that day.
Oh, I can only imagine. And I have to tell you, today, we should say that today is September 11th, you know, and when you and I were trying to arrange our schedule for this interview, like you and I didn't notice previously, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, you know, September 11th, you have given this honor to really channel the pain and suffering and also the light coming from trying to recover for such a tragedy, right? And then now today is a moment for you to express those feelings. So I find it very
It was
meaningful.
just a coincidence, but of course we know it wasn't a coincidence.
Right, exactly. You and I, and I think that you agree with me that there is no such a coincidence in this kind of things, right?
Right.
Maybe other things, they are like coffee is too hot or whatever,
Right.
But there are certain things in life that they are so meaningful and they're meant to be. And I think that what you have channeled the pain, but also the recovery that we all need to have in any tragedy in our lives, right?
Right.
It is so important, and I think your painting is such, honestly, what I feel, your your painting really brings out the Holy Spirit, in my view, in the sense that it's a message, that there's light in all that darkness. There's also some light that we need to get out of it. It can't be all sadness. We're going to, just like life, right? We have to bring what is the best out of life, and we will have some dark moments in our life, but
Right.
we just have to try to bring what is really the best. And in this case, your painting is magnificent. Congratulations. But I have to tell you,
Well, I want to tell you that the painting, that was not the end of the story.
Please tell me. Tell us.
Because years later, I did figurines. Every painting I did became a figurine. And I thought, why not work in life? And my dream was that the Dream Keepers would become a monument.
Oh.
And so as of 3 years ago, the town that I'm from, Duluth, Georgia, was named one of the 5 most patriotic cities in America. Oh, wow. And I had thought that this monument would be in the Bush Library, which is where the original painting is now. But I realized it needed to be in my home. And our community came together, and I designed and built a memorial, a 9/11 memorial to the children of 9/11. And across our great country, there are memorials in most cities to 9/11, and all for those lost souls.
Yeah.
But what about the children? A piece of their soul was taken from them. They
Right.
lost a parent, a sibling, a relative, a friend, and there's no monument to them. Yeah. So this monument is called the Dream Keepers 9/11 Memorial. Oh. And you can see a picture of it right now. And this monument is the largest patriotic monument of children in the country. And I added an 8th child who's singing God Bless America, and a dog. So that's what made it the largest. But the backdrop is done in glass. And the glass is our Prince of Freedom. So hidden in the glass is an eagle, a bald eagle, the Liberty Bell, the cross, the Statue of Liberty, and the New York City skyline. And people come from around the country. The state of Georgia considers this a destination point to see this.
Oh my goodness.
So I hope you will come sit with me. You're not
absolutely. Absolutely. And I would love for us to show in this show as well the monument, obviously the painting, but we will be showing video and paint and also pictures of your monument and your painting as well. So I am so
story lives on. And during all of these protests, the community held hands and stood around it. But the monument has a different message, whereas the painting was about faith and freedom. Yeah. When you look at the monument and you see these children of all different backgrounds equally putting that flag back together, it's a lesson for us today that if we have a common goal, we will work together. And so the monument has been quite the source of healing. And Duluth is very proud of that monument, and I'm proud of Duluth for making it possible.
Absolutely. And you touch on such an important point right now, a moment of unity, right? There's so much, you see all this riots and protests and all that. And I feel like, why don't we talk about the unity? In this monument, it represents unity. I mean, we definitely should promote it more. Like you said, people need that kind of inspiration,
Yes, and each handprint of those children is unique. And in their own unique way, they're adding to the story of the American dream, but it's the dream that unites them. And so I feel very proud to have
Oh, you should be very proud.
first 9/11 memorial. The National Monuments Foundation has ordained it as a 9/11 memorial. So I'm so glad
Congratulations.
today on 9/11,
Yeah.
we're telling the story.
I
And
know
every
how
year I
meaningful.
go back to tell the story. So this year I get to do it too, but with you. So
Well, I'm honored that you get to tell the story with me. And I tell you, I am so excited to be able, and really honored to be able to promote this, your art, but also the meaning behind is so important right now. So I'm very excited to be able to promote it. And also, I know that there is much more to your story, because you not only you're a wonderful artist, brilliant for this painting is amazing to me, but I have seen your other art and it's so breathtaking.
well, thank you.
As yes, absolutely, as a parent and as a mother, I know that your inspiration probably comes from your kids, from your children, but I tell you, it touches the soul of a child, the innocence what a child represents, and that's what I love about your paintings.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
and
when I do a photo shoot for a painting, I have my adult grandiose idea of what I'm going to paint. And so I'll go, this is what I'm going to paint. And I'll have my models because I work from life, and I'll get the children and I'll go, okay, let's do this. And then they'll do something that a kid would do. And I'll go, oh, that's such a better story. So when I stand up, that's never the same painting that I went down to do, because you can't out-kid a kid.
well, you are actually are able to capture that essence of a child that is so pure and so beautiful and is transmitted in your painting. So I need to congratulate you for that as well, because it's not just just all the strokes with the brush. It's just this, you can feel that innocence in the children. So, and that's why, I want to go to my next point, because I want to ask you how someone becomes, and I can imagine because of your talent, but someone becomes the most licensed children painters in the painter in the United States. I want to hear about that. That is fascinating.
Well, if most people look at my art and think or say, you've always wanted to be a mother. And I'm like, no, here's my story's quite long and we don't have enough time, but I will back up. I was born in a family that had general stores, quite a few different general stores. And back in the days when we were picking cotton, the farmers would come in and they would trade, and they would buy what they needed and pay when their cotton came in. So the entire community of Duluth was built around a family business. And so my parents and every relative that I ever knew worked in the store. So my 4 brothers and I had actually a housekeeper that raised us while they were at work. And this housekeeper, as soon as my parents would leave, she would put us outside and lock the door. And we would go, today you go, that's child abuse, but back in the 50s, it was playing outside. So I just rode my horse anywhere I wanted in the woods as long as I showed up for lunch. And I had this amazing opportunity to be a kid and explore and learn. And but when I would play football and basketball with all the boys and my brother. So when I was 14, my parents sent me to an all-girl boarding school to be refined and cultured. And there, my best friend there at the school's mother was a famous art teacher. And she had studied at the Louvre in Paris. And when her mother met me, she immediately took me as a student. And people go, oh, she could just sense you were a great artist. And I said, no. She was using me as bait, to get her daughter to take lessons. And so it worked for about 4 times. Jenny came with me, but my mother and her mother collaborated. And while I was at boarding school, this was the 10th, 11th, 12th grade, and my first 2 years of college, I studied art with her. Jenny went 4 times. But I had this amazing background in classical drawing, taught just like the old masters did. But I didn't love art then because it was a strict discipline. Of course, I know now how blessed I was to learn to draw from life and to have that type of background, especially during the 70s when art in colleges was weird, strange, throw paint, self-expression. And when I started to major in art, and the classes were just express yourself, and I would ask the teacher, how do I mix flesh tones? They would go, just experiment. Then I immediately changed majors, and I majored in outdoor parks and rec and lived in the Okefenokee Swamp. But I want to back up because I spent so much time outside, and I had 4 brothers. I competed in sports with them on equal footing. There wasn't an adult to say, you're a girl, you stand still, I'll throw the ball to you, guys run. I was very competitive. And as a result of that, I became a professional athlete in both water skiing and snow skiing. And I approached sports with this attitude of gutsiness and all that was really unusual for women my age. And so I went snow skiing for the first time because my friend Jenny, who grew up in Europe, it took me skiing. And when I was a freshman in college, I was invited to teach skiing at a resort who saw me skiing. So I taught skiing for 5 years. I went on to learn freestyle skiing, and I taught the first freestyle school. And when I became employed by Delta Airlines, I was a racer for Delta. So I had this whole history in snow skiing. But in the summertime, the thing that kept my family together was going to Lake Lanier. My parents loved boating. So my brothers and I water skied. Then we tried out for a water ski team, and we did ski shows. And then I made the U.S. ski team. And I skied I skied in Chicago. I skied for Tommy Bartlett's up in the Wisconsin Dells for Callaway Gardens. So I did show skiing all these years. When I became a Delta flight attendant, I switched and started training with a friend and became a trick skier, and later was second in the nation in women's trick skis. So Solange, with all of this going on, as a Christian, I said, God, you're calling me to be an athlete. You're calling me to witness as an athlete, which I did. But I did not want to get married, and I did not want children. And when I was 33 years old, I met my husband, Jeff, and I was ready to toss him aside because he gave me flowers. He courted me. And I said, oh, you've got to be a pushover. And the night that I said, you're too nice, and it takes strength to give. And at that point, I realized how I'd lost my way. And married him, 33, we got married. And here's where the wondering getting to the children come in. Got married, didn't want children. God has a sense of humor. My honeymoon. And
my goodness.
I know. So my testimony is on a video, which hopefully will show. But I did a painting for my nursery before either of my children were born. And it was just a cutesy little picture of 2 girls. And faced the fact I was going to have a baby. And I had quite the conversation with God. And I just said, God, you have got to help me. I'm frightened. And you know what he told me? He gave me a sense of comfort. Maybe it's crazy. For me, it was what I needed. He said, Kathy, think about the wild animals. You think they planned a nursery? They have their young, and then they lay down their life for their young. Do you not think I love you more? And I said, you mean that there's something I don't have now that you're going to give me?
I want you to keep it nice and
And Maggie was born. Before the dust settled, there came another. Kelly was born. And my heart was being transformed. I'd love to tell you at this point I became a wonderful mother, an artist, but no. I was ready to get back into my sports and just hire a nanny. You know, one that would let him in the house. To me, I mean, staying at home with the kids, how could that compete with going off ski jumps? And you know what I realized? Skiing off a ski jump was easy. Being a mom was the most challenging thing, and I fell in love with my children on a whole different level. And I did have a change of heart. That's how I've turned my focus from sports to painting. And
thank God you did, because what a beautiful art you do. And I tell you, it's inspirational art too, because I understand that you do paintings that many, even I heard that like Catholic churches, they have your paintings for baptism, for first communion. Tell us a little bit about that. Where's that inspiration come from, or it's just business, and how do you view that?
Well, the inspirational art came about when I did a painting called Here's the Church, Here's the Steeple. And I had just left a publisher who sold my art for my landscapes. And this publisher told me that people didn't want faces of children, that they only wanted profiles and back of hats so they could imagine their own child's face. And I remember looking at that publisher and I said, I'm so glad Norman Rockwell didn't listen to you. So I left him and I painted the painting, Here's the Church, Here's the Steeple. And a different publisher came up to me and said, I'm mesmerized by the faces of these children.
Me too.
And signed with them. And when that painting came out, this is an interesting thing too. The big release was supposed to be at the World Congress Center, and that was going to be my first time for all the galleries and frame shops across America to see the print that was for sale of this. 9/11 happened, and the convention center was shut down. Now, there's another 9/11 experience, but it sold out the first year, and I felt like people were missing those traditionals, the traditional songs, Jesus Loves Me, that generations sang, and praise music. I was afraid. I didn't want it to lose these traditions. So I did a series of paintings called Little Lessons of Faith. And for a child's relationship with Jesus, I used our beautiful stained glass windows from our Church of Jesus. So there's a whole collection of these paintings. And when the Catholic Church saw this art, they asked me to do a christening painting for them. And they told me exactly what they wanted. They wanted all of these hands lifting up this baby. And so I sketched that, but then I did an additional sketch and I said, this is what I would do. And they ended up picking this is what I would do.
Oh,
and watched my really one of my most popular paintings was a baby being christened. And the painting is called God's Treasure. And that's what launched me into the Catholic Church and doing art for them.
Well, I tell you, it's just fascinating to hear your story. The multi-talented talents that you have they're remarkable. I mean, and we haven't even gone in this show over how did you get involved with Delta. That will be another show to ask.
Right.
But it's fascinating to me, and I tell you, thank you for your art. I mean, if this world had more art and more artists like you that bring really the Holy Spirit, because you look at those faces of those children, you see something special coming from there. It's not just a painting. So,
well, if I could end by saying that my goal as an artist and my goal as a mother and as a Christian, is that people would see my art and look at the face of the child in that painting, but then that they would turn and want for it to have them turn to their own child or children. And I hope that through my art, people realize that children are truly a gift from God.
Yes,
and we are entrusted to take care of them. And that was my message through my art that I would want to get across.
well, it's so wonderful for you to say that. And I definitely believe that that's the message that people get. You know, precious children are precious in our life and therefore in this world and for humanity. So you truly transmit that in your painting. I would love for people to know, where can they go and purchase your painting and how they can find out more about you. Do you have a webpage?
I do. You can go to my website, and I've just signed with a new publisher, and the information will be right there. And my website is www.Kathy with a K, Kathy, Fincher, FINCHER.com. And I will direct you to this fabulous publisher that is doing the most beautiful reproductions of my art, the Master Collection. So I look forward to introducing you to them.
Oh, I am so looking forward to getting to know them. And I tell you, I would love to invite you back again, because I think there's so much to see. And now we're going to also show some of your paintings, and maybe, you know, a video that shows a little bit about when the painting came to the White House and you were there with your family.
Right.
So
and my calendars are available now through Legacy. So you can go to your local store and ask for my calendars.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
And the calendar is called Mama Says.
Mama Says. Oh, I sure will look forward to seeing that. But thank you so much, Kathy. What a pleasure to talking to you today, and looking forward for the next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.